Well, good morning, everyone. Happy first day of winter. Stepping out the door, definitely going to feel like it with temperatures in the teens to lower 30s, but highs today will be in the 40s with lots of sunshine, but we are tracking some wintry precipitation heading into your Thursday, so definitely keep it here. We'll have another check of that forecast coming up in just a bit.
Also coming up this morning, from Ukraine to Washington, D.C., Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to meet with President Biden today. What we're learning about that visit and how it could impact you.
Plus, police impersonator. D.C. police are looking for a man they say disguised himself as an officer before shooting a man and a child inside a home.
And the holiday travel rush is on. The best time to hit the road if you're getting out of town for the holiday weekend.
The station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
All right, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Corey James.
Good morning. I'm Tanaya Wright. We do want to get right to Brittany Ward with a check on our Wednesday forecast. And Brittany, it's the first day of winter.
Yeah, and birds, really cold when you step out the door today. Definitely feeling like winter out there with those temperatures mainly in the teens to lower 30s across the DMV, but lots of sunshine in store for your Wednesday. Check out these temperatures right now across the mountain counties. You can see them mainly in the teens, 19 there in Winchester as well as Martinsburg and even Cumberland, Woodstock. You guys are coming in at 15 below freezing across the entire DMV, 30 there in DC. So heading out the door right now, definitely make sure you are bundling up. Now, if you are going to be catching a flight today, temperatures will be fairly warm out there, seeing them in the lower 40s with that mixture of sun and clouds. Then clouds begin to roll their way in as we head into the second half of our afternoon. Planning your morning, it's going to be a chilly start, but hey, we are tracking some wintry precipitation, so definitely keep it here. We'll have another check of that forecast coming up. Shanika?
Thank you, Brittany. Now, you're dealing with this mess in Northern Virginia. This is in McLean. That's right near 123. It's not looking too good, but you're only dealing with a little bit of a slowdown. So you'll see some red right before you head to GW Parkway and over the American Legion Bridge. Look at how backed up you are. So this crash is definitely causing some issues for commuters just in that one area, though. I showed you 6695. It still looks all good. Silver Spring, watch for a crash off of University Boulevard and Piney Branch Road. If you're in Northeast, watch for another crash off of Maryland Avenue and 19th Street.
All right, Shanika, thank you. Well, preparations are underway for a presidential visit from Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky.
This is a rare trip for Zelensky. His home country has been under relentless attacks from Russia since February. DC News Now's Randy Bass is at the White House this morning. So, Randy, what's on the Ukrainian president's agenda today?
Yeah, Tanaya, Corey, good morning from the White House here, where the Ukrainian president is set to start his day as he makes his trip to the nation's capital. The Biden administration confirming this morning on the schedule they've released. The Ukrainian president will be here at around 2 o'clock this afternoon to greet the president and meet with him in private. Then after that, the Ukrainian president Volodymyr Zelensky expected to head across town to the Capitol building, where he is set to deliver remarks to a joint meeting of Congress. Now, this historic trip comes as Congress debates the omnibus spending bill, the federal government spending bill worth trillions of dollars. In that budget, about 45 billion more dollars in emergency aid for Ukraine. This morning, the Pentagon is preparing to send Patriot surface-to-air missiles to the country to help defend itself. President Zelensky tweeting this overnight: "On my way to the U.S. to strengthen resilience and defense capabilities of Ukraine. In particular, the president and I will discuss cooperation between Ukraine and the U.S. I will also have a speech at Congress and a number of bilateral meetings." This marks Zelensky's first trip outside Ukrainian borders since Russia first invaded the country more than 300 days ago. Reporting at the White House, I'm Randy Bass, DC News Now.
And Randy, security concerns here in the district were a really big part of whether or not the Ukrainian president could come to D.C. at all. Are there any updates on what the preparations are looking like?
Yeah, Tanaya, great question. No firm details about the security and the detail that they're taking here today. At this point, we haven't heard from D.C. Police, U.S. Capitol Police, or the Secret Service. Standing out here this morning, I've seen a pretty regular amount of Secret Service agents, riding around on bikes, traveling around the area here at Lafayette Square in their cars, just kind of patrolling the area per usual. So nothing really remarkable there in terms of security that we know of at this point. But coming up at 6:30, I'll have a live interview with a local Ukrainian business owner, getting her reaction on the historic events that are set to unfold here today. Back to you.
All right, looking forward to that. Thank you, Randy. Well, that proposed federal spending bill will impact people here in the DMV as well. There were some notable initiatives included, as well as some that were left out. So let's break it down for you. Talking about what is included, the bill would provide $38 billion in emergency funding for Americans affected by natural disasters. It would also raise the maximum Pell Grant award by $500 per year. That initiative helps lower-income families to afford college. $8 billion will also be provided for child care funding. The bill increases support for veterans and the military, raising troop pay by nearly 5%. Now, what is not included in it, there is no enhancement of the child tax credit. So that means 19 million kids will not receive the full $2,000 benefit. That is all according to an estimate from the Tax Policy Center. The Cannabis Safe Banking Act was also left off the bill. That would have allowed banks to work with cannabis businesses. Lastly, it does not determine if the FBI headquarters will be in Springfield, Virginia, or Prince George's County, Maryland.
And as lawmakers battle over the passage of that spending bill, their fight could impact workers here in the district. Our Katie Reese spoke with federal workers ahead of the potential government shutdown.
Now, it's a bit of a toss-up. Some of the federal workers I spoke to, they're really worried about a potential shutdown, and others said this wasn't their first go-around and believe the government will resolve that shutdown before anything can happen.
You know, you could be without for some time, but I'm not gonna worry about it.
Hoping that it won't last forever. I've heard war stories about it.
Early Tuesday, lawmakers proposed the spending bill for the next fiscal year, with compromises on funding to aid Ukraine, other defense matters, as well as aid for communities recovering from natural disasters. But some key points are causing a standstill for lawmakers, which has some federal workers and their families worried.
It is always a challenge when 1 out of 2 people stop getting paychecks, so we'd obviously like to avert a shutdown altogether.
One federal employee told me that some essential workers, like members of the military, will still receive paychecks if the government does shut down. Others say they'll likely receive back pay. But for contractors, some won't know if or when they'll get their next paycheck.
It's able to pay rent, utilities, and stuff like that. So I just got my own place. Don't want to lose that. My first rodeo. Try to save what I have, and hopefully it'll last long enough until I find something else.
Other federal workers I spoke to say they're not worried.
Continuing resolutions, usually this is a political tactic, and typically we get our continuing resolution and we continue working. It's been enough worry and scare with everything that's going on in the last 3 years, and so I think for those of us who are working and are healthy and happy, that's going to be the last thing I worry about.
Now, this financial spending package, it's nearly 3 months late. It was supposed to go into place in October, and lawmakers now have until Friday to come to a decision. In the studio, Katie Ray, DC News Now.
All right, an Indiana man who was caught by police vandalizing the Washington Monument is ordered to pay more than $3,000 in restitution. A judge also sentenced Sean Deaton to 1 year probation. Now, police caught the 44-year-old in September putting red paint on the monument. He pled guilty to destruction of federal property. Your time right now is 6:07. D.C. police are looking for a suspect who they say targeted people living in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood in Northeast. According to police, the suspect impersonated an officer to get into the victim's building. DC News Now, Lex Suarez is live outside police headquarters this morning. And Lex, how far along are they in the investigation?
Well, police are still trying right now to identify that suspect. They actually released some photos of him last night that were taken from security cameras in the neighborhood. You can see in the pictures the suspect was wearing a vest that said police on it and had a badge hanging from his neck. According to police, that suspect used the disguise to get into an apartment building on Clay Street Northeast just before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He then spoke with the victims briefly before pulling out a gun and shooting both of them multiple times. Now, those victims include a man and a young boy. Both of them were taken to local hospitals where they are still recovering. Police say that they have serious injuries. They're asking anyone who knows anything about this or can identify that suspect or that vehicle to call them and give them that information. They do have a $10,000 reward out with this case. Live in Washington, I'm Lex Juarez, DC News Now.
All right, Lex, thank you. Well, pretty soon, riding a Metro bus may not cost you a dime. D.C. Council unanimously passed a bill that would make buses free to ride as soon as July. Now, Mayor Muriel Bowser could still veto the measure, but the council would likely override it. And a D.C. Council approved another big measure, passing the Safe Routes to School Act. The bill requires sweeping improvements to traffic safety around public and charter schools in the district. The measure will raise sidewalks, add speed bumps, and double the size of school zones. The bill is also making most daytime speed limits in those zones 15 miles per hour, even on the weekends.
And travel experts are expecting this year to be one of the busiest seasons we have seen on the road in several years now. AAA expects Friday to be one of the busiest travel days of the year, and Tuesday and Wednesday after Christmas could be even busier. If you booked a flight, though, be ready for delays and cancellations. If you're driving, you may want to avoid hitting the road during those peak hours, which is between noon and 7 p.m. Now, we spoke with people in the DMV about how much of a hassle they think holiday travel is going to be.
I like driving in the snow, but I don't like when other people are on the road. You know, like I don't really trust other drivers.
It's been nice to have that break from all the people on the road and to know that that's going to be gone and there's going to be a lot of traffic. Then it's kind of discouraging.
AAA estimates nearly 113 million people will travel 50 miles or more between December 23rd and January 2nd. That is an increase of 3.6 million people compared to last year and almost back up to those pre-pandemic levels.